What's going on, guys? Back at you with a few videos today. This one's going to be on Acadia. This is one that I mapped out and I never ended up taking the trade. However, I did find some pretty solid support and I expected a nice bounce, and that's exactly what we ended up doing. We can see here this uptrending support line here. Every time we came back to this line, we got a pretty nice bounce, and we usually used it as a springboard to take off here. And as of recently, we came down here during this recent market correction, and we actually held this support. We got beautiful rounding action, and it really looks like this thing could be in the midst of a trend reversal here. Back in March 2nd, 2021, we had a very strong sell-off from a range up in this area here. And basically what we could see is in prior history, what did we do? We came down to this lower trend line here of 1614. We tested it a few times, and we ended up taking off from there. And we caught a lot of resistance around this 2278 to roughly 2340. So basically, what we're seeing right now is if we were to get rid of this line here, we can see that price action chopped in between this area right here between 2340 and 2803. That's a pretty solid range if you ask me. Even just taking a measurement tool from this point to this point, that's about a 17% range, 18% range right there. And once it eventually broke through, it had a fake out, and then it just completely ripped to the upside here. What was it? A massive where was that measurement tool? I mean, from this low right here to just this high here was a 83% move. And to the overall top here, where it ended up topping out here in March or in January right there, from that low of 2340 to this high of $58, that was 142% gain. So, that's something I like to look at personally, because this is, you want to find the place that this support was found and the buyers decided to step in. And if we can figure that out, we can be here for this potential type of move. And we don't have to be up here like, oh my God, I want to get in. Oh my God, this thing took off, blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? So one thing that we can see here is that we are potentially creating a beautiful, beautiful reversal pattern here. Whether or not we wanted to call it like a cup and handle of some sort, or if we wanted to say it's an inverse head and shoulders, there's a couple potential possibilities. We can definitely see that we have some type of cup forming right here, and we can also see we potentially have an inverse head and shoulders. If we were to call it an inverse head and shoulders, we could, put the left shoulder right here, right? The head right here, the neckline roughly around right here, and we could be potentially forming the right shoulder right now. So if we were to look at it like this, the start of the right shoulder could have started at this $21 mark. This would insinuate that if we were to have price action continue up in its path to its roughly its 8%, 18% rip from recontrolling this zone right here, that 18% rip would lead us up to this neckline, which is roughly around 2786, and it actually has some pretty strong confluence. As we can see, this was multi-year resistance, could never really hold as support. There wasn't many times where it held as support. Price action usually resorted back to as low as 2250 to this roughly 2362 range. So with that being said, right now we have almost a cup and handles. This didn't quite come up exactly to this 2755. We kind of hit this a little bit of a higher low. We sold off, and now we've bounced. But this could be something that is setting up. It's a little bit slow right now, but when it moves, it really moves. And I'm just kind of charting this out just for the idea that this could be setting up as a trend reversal. Of course, if we lost this trend line here, this idea would be invalid. The trend line right now is roughly around 2171 to 2150, with the expectation of this area of confluence right here. We can actually just make this color blue, just so that it doesn't get too confused. Basically, that's around 2042 at the lowest, because this is where buyers stepped in right here, even though we had some wicks below. But this is where price action lines right now. So on a daily point of view, or I'm sorry, this is a 4-hour. On a 4-hour point of view, RSI has made it up here. We don't have any type of divergences that I can see right now, and it looks like we have a lot of room to run on the 4-hour. If we were to look at the daily, we can obviously see that we have a lot of room to run. We had hidden bullish divergence right here. When it dipped down in this range, which was this range to 1860, we actually, we were up here on the RSI, and then when we recently dipped down to that 21 to 2040, we were way lower on the right. And now we're having this bullish divergence play out. So it seems like we have some room to run before we were to create any type of bearish divergence here. So that is a good sign to see. Mainly, my key area that I have marked for an alert was to break above this 2486 and confirm support, because we can see here that anytime we broke above roughly this 2583, I guess you could call it, but I have my marks at 2490. Anytime we were able to break above this, we had a clear run to 2754. But we also can see that anytime we bounced up this trend line, we had a clear run to this area too. So that's why originally I wanted to buy in right at this 2140 area, but unfortunately I got sidetracked and I started playing Square and a few other ones, which paid me very nicely. I'm out of those trades as of right now. But we had this descending triangle right here, and we had this lower potential support, well actually definite support at 2088. And if we looked at the targeted move of just this descending triangle from the breakout, it brings us up to roughly some of these previous wicks, which is up at 2845, and we had some, obviously, this price action here at 2746. So I am looking at this trade potentially carrying it up at least to this range, and then I want to see what it does from there. I mean, if it does start looking like an inverse head and shoulders, or if it does have a beautiful blast through rip that we end up catching and then it finds support in this range, I might just stay in the trade. However, if we just smack ourselves right up to this, start chopping around, I might end up having to close it and wait for some confirmation above. I don't know how it's going to play out, but this is my key area that I'm watching right in this range. So I wanted to put this one out there, as this is what I'm watching. If we were to look for an entry here and we wanted to see what's going on right now down on a 15-minute time frame, you can see I already have this charted out right now. I was looking to potentially put some lower bids in, maybe down in some of this consolidation range down here, but unfortunately, I just can't see that price might not make it down there. It's kind of what I'm thinking right now. I'm not usually one to come up and be like, oh, I'm buying up here. But what's interesting to me is that this yellow line, roughly, it's not perfect, but this yellow line was the resistance right here, resistance right here. When we broke it, we had a beautiful powerhouse move, and although it didn't hold its support very well, we came all the way back down into this 2083 range. We ripped back up. We found a little bit of support here, found a little bit of support roughly around this $23 really. So roughly between this 23 and 23.42 seems to be some pretty critical support. Previously, I could move this line around. I had this mapped out like this. We could map it out however we wanted to, but I'm going to keep it how I had it, because there was multiple wicks that came up and tapped this white line, tapped this white line rejection, fake out, couldn't hold it as support. We came back, and the buyers just stepped in really big here. We made a beautiful bull flag right here, and this was a nice consolidation pattern just to prove a little bit more upside was happening. We took the targeted move of that bull flag from the point of the peak down to the lower support here. We can see our next targeted move right there was 23.85, and right now we look to be either making a symmetrical triangle or a bull pennant. And if we were to take a bull pennant, it actually measures out exactly the same distance as this previous move. And if this was a bull pennant breakout, and we were to break out of this bull pennant, our next price target up here is actually 25.11. And if this was just a small measly ascending triangle, or not ascending triangle, symmetrical triangle, and it's possible that this could be the next move right now, and this could just, hit this target and roll over, is 24.14. I'm not sure exactly what this is, if this is a bull pennant or a bull flag. Only the next price action will, show. But if it does actually make it through and above this recent peak of 23.92, it's possible that it ends up confirming that area as support. So, I don't know how fast it's going to move or how this is going to play out, but these are just some things I'm looking for. However, the overall target here is up at $28, and we could actually expect some resistance at 27.17 to that 27.50 I talked about. So, if we were to look here and say, hey, what's going on? Is this thing going to break bearish? Is it going to break bullish? I mean, that's obviously up for interpretation. We can see right now that we have this support line I talked about, 23.40. If we broke to the downside, our target would be 23.05, which is roughly that 23 range I was talking about. Price is definitely getting rejected every time it hits this upper line and getting bought up every time it hits this lower line. Of course, we only have 2 confirmations right there as of right now. And I can't even see. And basically, if we were to pull back right here, we can see that this support, if we were to drop straight down right now, this support, let me move this line, it's getting in my way. This support line is 23.50. If we were to go down the next candle, that's 23.51. So, if we continue chopping in here and we just can't seem to get the momentum to break to the upside here, then we'd obviously might see ourselves actually break down from this consolidation right here. And if we can't hold this 23.40, then I would probably be looking back in some of this previous consolidation. But, that's fine, and it would be a nice pullback buy if it comes back and potentially retests this area. This is at 22.14, which is actually the 0.618 fib of this retracement if we were to pull, because I already did this. If we were to actually, let's just remove all this just for right now. If we took a retracement from this recent low right here up to this high right here, we can see that the 0.618 is 22.16, maybe 22.14, somewhere in there. That's just something that I would like to do if I was looking for a pullback here, but I really think that this thing is going to control this level here. It's had some pretty good time to consolidate, and now it's pulling in, looking like it's trying to make a base on here. So it might take a little bit of time here, but it's hard to say exactly what it's going to do. But like I said, we have a bullish move into it and multiple bullish moves out of that pattern with a target up in the 28s. So it would only make sense to me if we did actually break to the upside. We could also draw this as a potential descending triangle, but it looks like it's not quite descending because we have a few, pretty much have a pattern. Yeah, it's more of a symmetrical triangle or a bull pennant. But yeah, I mean, that pretty much shows me what's going on here. I didn't use any indicators. It's just basically just using like naked charting. But if we did fall back, I mean, anywhere in this 22.50 to as low as 22.16 would be a great time to buy. I mean, if we did break down here and SPY actually continues down and we lose some of this support here, coming back to retest this bull flag as support would be a great time to buy. And if we were to fail that, then coming back to this main key area that sent us on this recent run, that's usually what you want to look for. I mean, I used to do a lot of trying to buy these pullbacks to previous resistance as new support, and they seem to fail a lot more often than they work. So it's just something to think about. If you see price action was stopped and then it took off, usually you want to buy from those areas that it took off because the buyer is most likely still going to be sitting there. And that's just a nice piece of advice, something that I've learned along my ways. But yeah, with that being said, my video is coming to an end here, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Really just wait for a break of 24, or you can buy some consolidation support, or look for a pullback somewhere in this 22.16 range. But overall, I think this thing's heading up to about $28 at least, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video.